Have a pleasant afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To our Purposive Communication Professor, Mrs. Divina, good afternoon, ma'am. To all of our classmates, hello guys, good afternoon. Group 4 proudly presents 4 kinds of sentences according to structure. Before we're going to proceed to the main discussion, let me introduce to you first to the reporters and researchers of this topic. Yours truly, Harvey Tabaque, Mr. Lawrence Timbal, Miss Keisha Melvs Pasinabo, Mr. Mark Anthony Taacon, Miss Francis Daniel Sarino, Miss Ella Chiki Mauritius, Miss Raina Marie Pusta, Mr. Kent Razo, Miss Richie Shane, and Miss Mika Saikon. So, our topic is all about the structures of a sentence. Before we dig deeper and know everything about the structure, let's define first what is sentence. What makes a group of words a sentence? So, a sentence is composed of a subject and a predicate. Subject means it is who are we talking to in a sentence, and predicate, it involves the verb and modifiers, objects, etc. in a sentence. Take note, a sentence should start with a capital letter and ends with a period. And a sentence expresses a complete thought. So what is a complete thought? So we have Mr. Lawrence Timbal to explain it.
Everyone, my name is Lawrence Timbal. A complete thought, it consists of a general subject and some kind of spin or controlling idea on this topic. For example, the controlling idea could be the speaker's intent, understanding, perspective, or opinion about the topic. Complete thought, it can stand alone. It doesn't need another clause to explain that. Certain words can make a complete thought less complete. Examples: after, although, as if, because, before, ever if, even if, even though, if, in order to, since, though, unless, until, whatever, when, whenever, whether, and when. These words can make an dependent clause into a dependent clause. There are 2 types of clauses: independent and dependent clause. Independent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and verb and expresses a complete thought. Dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and verb but does not express a complete thought.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawrence. Now let's proceed to the main objective of this discussion, the 4 sentence structures. Number 1, we have the simple sentence. 2, compound sentence. 3, complex sentence. And number 4, the compound complex sentence. To discuss the simple sentence, we have Miss Keisha Melvs Pasinabo and Mr. Mark Anthony Taacon.
Good day, everyone. I am Keisha Melvs Corpus Pasinabo, and together with Mark Anthony Taacon, we are going to present to you or to discuss about the simple sentence.
Good day, everyone. I am Mark Anthony Taacon. Together with Keisha Melvs Pasinabo, we are going to present to you or to discuss simple sentence. So, simple sentence is a sentence that is composed of one clause. What kind of clause is that? It is called a one independent clause. It is composed of the most basic elements that make it a sentence: a subject and a verb, and then it is a completed thought. A simple sentence is also known as a clausal sentence. It may have a modifier besides a subject, verb, and object. There are 4 types of simple sentence. First, simple sentence with simple subject and predicate. Second, compound subject and simple predicate. The third one, simple subject and compound predicate. And lastly, compound subject and compound predicate. Keisha will give some example for that.
Now let us see some of its examples. Example for a simple sentence that has simple subject and simple predicate. Alexa waited for the bus. Alexa is the subject, Waited for the bus is the predicate where waited is the verb. Example for a simple sentence that has compound subject and simple predicate. Mary and Martha took the bus. Mary and Martha is the compound subject. Now there are two people doing the action and that makes it a compound subject. Took the bus is the predicate where took is the verb.
Thank you so much, guys. Now let's proceed to the second sentence structure. We have the compound sentence. To discuss it, we have Miss Frances Daniel Serino and Miss Ella Chico Mauritius A.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis Daniel Serino and I'm going to report the definition of compound sentence. So what is compound sentence? Compound sentence contain two independent clauses and are linked by a coordinating conjunctions. So an independent clause has a subject, a verb, and states a complete thought. So remembering the acronym FANBOYS is an easy way to remember the coordinating conjunctions we can use to join independent clauses. So coordinating conjunctions connects words or groups of words together. They include the word for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so.
So here are some examples of compound sentence with coordinating conjunction. First example, I like to dance but Jim likes to sing. So as what have my partner said, that compound sentence is composed of two independent clauses. The first independent clause is I like to dance. Next is Jim's like to sing. And their coordinating conjunction is the word but. Second example is he jogs every morning but he stops once in a while. The first independent clause here is he jogs every morning. The second independent clause is he stops once in a while. And the coordinating conjunction, which is part of the fun boys conjunction, is the word but. And the last example is the baby laughed at the cartoon and he played with his toys. It is still a compound sentence because it is composed of two independent clauses. The first independent clause again is the baby laughed at the cartoon, and the second independent clause is he played with his toys. And the next is the coordinating conjunction word is the word and. It is still part of the word of the conjunction fun boys.
Now, let's proceed to the third sentence structure, the complex sentence. To discuss it, we have Miss Royna Marie Pusta and Mr. Kent Razo.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Kent Razo, the reporter for the complex sentence. So, a complex sentence has at least two parts, one that can stand alone, or the independent clause, and another one that cannot, or the dependent clause. So, there is a rule in making or constructing a complex sentence. Rule number 1 states that if a sentence begins with a dependent clause, it is followed by a comma, and after that is the independent clause. So the second rule in complex sentence states that if the sentence begins with an independent clause, there is no comma separating the two clauses. So later on, you will see the different kinds of rule that being used in examples. So next slide, please. Okay, so the part that cannot stand alone, or the dependent clause, is linked to the rest of the sentence by a subordinating conjunction. So always remember, if we add the dependent clause and subordinating conjunction, it is called subordinating clause or subordinate clause. So earlier in compound sentence, they are using coordinating conjunctions, while in complex sentences, we are using subordinating conjunctions. Okay, so the most common subordinating conjunctions are the following: after, although, as, because, before, how, if, once, since, than, that, though, till, until, when, where, whether, and while. Okay, so complex sentences examples will be discussed by Miss Pusta.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Reina Maria Ipusta, and I am going to tackle about the examples of a complex sentence. Example number 1. Although she completed her literature review, comma, she still needed to work on her method section. Although she completed her literature review is a dependent clause. She still needed to work on her method section is an independent clause. Note the comma in this sentence because it begins with a dependent clause. Example number 2. They studied APA rules for many hours as they were so interesting. They studied APA rules for many hours is an independent clause. As they were so interesting is a dependent clause. Note that there is no comma in the sentence because it begins with an independent clause. As you may have noticed from these examples, a complex sentence can either start with the independent clause or the dependent clause, or which is also known for subordinate clause. If the subordinate clause comes first, you must add a comma, just like in the example number 1. Comma is not needed if the independent clause comes first, just like in the example number 2. An independent clause contains a subject and a verb. It can stand alone as a complete thought, while a subordinate clause cannot stand alone. It needs to be linked to the independent clause to make sense. If you put those two together, you have a complex sentence.
And finally, to discuss the combination of the compound and complex, the compound complex sentence, we have Miss Richie Shane and Mika Saikon.
Good day everyone, I am Micah Saikon and for today I will be discussing the fourth type of sentence, which is the compound complex sentence. But before that, let me recall a few things that was discussed a while ago. First is the compound sentence. Again, it contains two independent clauses and they're linked by coordinating conjunctions, while the complex sentence has at least two parts. One is the independent clause and the other one is the dependent clause. And now let us define what is compound complex sentence. A compound complex sentence is a sentence composed of at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause and is connected by a conjunction. To simply put, it is a combination of compound and complex sentences. One or more of those sentences must be a complex sentence. Otherwise, it's a compound sentence comprising of a dependent or subordinate clause. It is important to note that the dependent clause can be placed at the beginning, middle, or at the end of the sentence. Remember to also put a comma before the conjunction. If applicable, put a comma after the dependent clause if it is written at the beginning of the sentence. So the compound complex sentences conveys three ideas expressed in two clauses joined by any of the three coordinating conjunctions, namely and, but, and or the marginal coordinator yet, a semicolon, nor, and so, which has the popular acronym FUNBOYS. So the compound complex sentences is a bit of confusing to identify since the sentences are pretty long. So to differentiate a compound complex sentence from another type of sentence is very simple. You need to understand that the components that make up a compound complex sentence are independent clause and the dependent clause, and lastly, the conjunctions. As said earlier, a compound complex sentence comprises of multiple independent clauses plus a single dependent clause. So the compound complex sentences are used mainly to express complex thoughts or a sequence of events. School, school books and novels are the main areas where compound complex sentences are applied on a large extent. To fully understand what is compound complex sentences, here are some examples to be explained by Ms. Sampani.
A compound complex sentence is a combination of a compound sentence and a complex sentence, meaning there has to be at least two independent clauses like in a compound sentence, and at least one dependent clause like in a complex sentence. Independent clauses are those that could stand alone, and dependent clauses are clauses that could not stand on their own or has an incomplete thought. Now that we know this, let us look at examples. Although I like to go camping, I haven't had the time to go lately, and I haven't found anyone to go with. Here, although I like to go camping, is a dependent clause linked to a subordinating conjunction, although. It could not stand alone. I haven't had the time to go lately, and the clause I haven't found anyone to go with are independent clauses linked together by a coordinating conjunction, and. Each clause is a complete thought. Notice that since the dependent clause is located at the beginning of the sentence, a comma is used to join it together with the independent clauses. Next example we have, John doesn't like novels since they are lengthy, so he doesn't read them. Since they are lengthy is a dependent clause since it doesn't present a complete thought, with the word since used as a subordinating conjunction. John doesn't like novels and he doesn't read them are independent clauses since they could stand on their own, the latter independent clause being joined together with the coordinating conjunction so. Another example we have, even if you give me the world, I would never love you, for you disgust me. Here, the dependent clause, which is the even if you give me the world, is placed at the beginning of the sentence. It is connected to the independent clause I would never love you using a comma. The independent clause you disgust me uses the conjunction for to connect to the other independent clause. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And for the summarization of our report, we discussed the four sentence structure: the simple, compound, complex, and the compound complex sentence. So in a simple sentence, it should have a one independent clause. For the compound sentence, it should have a two or more independent clauses. For a complex sentence, it should have a one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. And for the compound complex sentence, it should have a two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses.